The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. This is Wildcat Insider with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, and KMAN Sports Director, Mitch Fortner.
Saturday in Bramlage, it was nothing but pure drama.
Here's Miller to Nelson, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Nelson a step back three for the win. Oh my goodness, he hit it with 1.1 to go. Here's the inbounds to Tyler Perry, and Tyler from three-quarters court. Oh, no good, and somehow, some way, TCU wins a wild game here, 75-72 against the Wildcats.
That was game one of a doubleheader. Game two also came down to the wire.
6.6 for the Cats. Jalen Glenn's broken free. Under the bucket, the layup, good! UCF to play it in. Jillett, shy of half court, lets it fly, no good. And the Cats again survive at home.
Survive is right. I mean, gutting out these home games once again without Ayoka Lee. The K-State women on Saturday beat UCF in a low-scoring just battle. It was a battle, to say the least. 60-58 the final score, but the K-State men, they fall short thanks to that three-point buzzer beater by Jameer Nelson Jr., and the Horned Frogs win it 75-72. Side note from that game, Jamie Dixon grabbed my water bottle with about 5 minutes to go, and he took a big old chug of it. And what he didn't know is then and still right now, battling a pretty stiff cold. So old Jamie Dixon is going to probably be under the weather, if not now, in a few days.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So that'll be an interesting conversation the next time you guys see each other at the Big 12 Media Days next fall.
Yeah. Hey, Jamie, you didn't know this, but, when things were tense and the Cats are making a comeback, maybe it was like 3 minutes left. You accidentally grabbed my water bottle, and if you were all stuffy afterwards, well, that's why. You grabbed the wrong water bottle. The TCU radio crew all looked at me at the same time. Yeah, it wasn't his water bottle. It was mine. I did not take another drink out of that bottle. I just threw it away. You didn't.
It wasn't. You didn't just throw it in the dishwasher and try to just scrub that thing out with as many disinfectants as possible.
This isn't a.
Okay.
Yes, I know what you're saying. You're younger. Kids these days like to take the
I know
aluminum water
about.
bottles with them to school and everything. Yeah. I just go to the fridge at Bramlage and grab a water bottle.
Okay, yeah, I know
or
what
the
you're
plastic
talking about.
bottles.
Yeah.
Welcome to Wildcat Insider. Mitch Fortner with AJ Shaw. Just us two in studio. Wyatt will join us here in just a second from Austin, Texas. ESPN 2 version of Big Monday tonight. Big 12 play. Cats, their only meeting with Texas in the regular season, will be tipping off at 8 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starts at 7 following the Jeff No Jeff Mitty show today. They'll be back at it next week, so excuse me there. No Jeff Mitty show today. Almost forgot about that. So we'll have pregame coverage starting at 7 o'clock right here on K-Man. Cats trying to end a skid of losing 6 of the last 7. That only win was in overtime against KU. K-State women get set for a top 25 West Virginia team coming into town. And fingers crossed, Ayoka Lee is back for that matchup. We'll talk more K-State women's basketball a little bit later on in both hours. Hour number 2 will feature Mitch Palm versus Texas at 5:10. At 5:25, very cool interview we're going to have with Brendan Jones, center fielder from K-State baseball, will come on to talk to us about the opening 3 games for the Batcats that went 2-1 down in Scottsdale, Arizona. And they get ready to play again tomorrow in Tempe. They're going to play Arizona State. K-State, Arizona State, the 2 teams that were last year the first and second teams left out of the NCAA tournament. So this is the Chips on Shoulders Bowl or World Series or whatever you want to call it when the Cats visit the Sun Devils tomorrow night with the first pitch at 7:30. And pregame will start 30 minutes prior. That'll be online only to start and then join in progress after Manhattan High Hoops gets done with their regular season finale and senior day at home against Topeka Hayden. We are going to lead off with the voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson from Austin, Tejas. Wyatt, we open up by discussing the end of that game on Saturday. Losing to TCU at home 75-72. Cats are now at a record of 15-10, 5-7 in Big 12 play. That last shot, I swear from where I was sitting, Jameer Nelson just threw it up there with two hands. I got to go watch the replay, but just kind of threw it up there with two hands and got a little bit lucky. K-State fought back with under a minute to go. They were down 5. They were able to tie it up, and then the Horned Frogs just rip your heart out right at the end of the game.
You know what was really weird? It looked to me like, and I have not looked back at the tape yet, but it looked to me like he bumped with his own teammate Micah Peavy a little bit and did kind of flinch and fall back or whatever you want to say, and then hit a really difficult shot just past the 3-point arc to win it with 1.1 to go. I think it was, a very frustrating ending to a frustrating day for K-State. Coach talked after the game about probably the biggest stat being the fact that, they had 20 points on second chance opportunities. K-State had only 8. You can talk about the 1 for 15 3-point shooting for K-State too, I suppose, where they went 6 of 14. Those two things, I think, and then that shot by Jameer, are just too much to overcome.
Yeah, you mentioned the two stats that really stood out to me the most. I mean, the 1 for 15 shooting. K-State has not been a great 3-point shooting team this season, and it's surprised because of Tyler Perry's reputation of being such a hot 3-point shooter in North Texas. And he goes 0 for 6. Let's go to Tyler Perry for just a second, because I think we've seen his game transition into more like a ground and pound type of game where he's gonna do what it takes just to get to the hoop and try to score some points. I think that part of his game has grown over the last couple of weeks. 3-point shots not hitting against TCU, but what do you got to say about Tyler Perry's effort scoring 24 points and keeping K-State in the game?
Well, he was really good getting to the line. That's pretty obvious. He was 12 for 12, made 6 of 13 shots overall, but you mentioned the 0 from 3-point land where he was 0 for 6. But if you really kind of study a little bit deeper, and I was visiting with Coach Tang about this yesterday, really what I describe as the big three, which would be Tyler and Cam and Arthur Kaluma, all three of those guys have been off a little bit over the last couple of weeks from 3-point range, mainly in that area of 25-ish%, and all of those guys are better shooters than that. And so you look up and, K-State lost the game Saturday, and now they've dropped 6 out of 7 after a 4-1 and 14-4 start, I believe it was. So that's been, one of the issues. Turnovers, I think, are another, but they've kind of, for a lack of a better way of saying it, kind of somewhat discounted that and just have decided to kind of live with it and make up for it in other places. Because they're going to have, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 turnovers about every time out. I would assume you would agree with that. And then the other variable is the rebounding. K-State, I think, had out-rebounded, 3 straight opponents, but not Saturday. TCU, part of that second chance opportunity was 14. Let me say that again, 14 offensive rebounds. That's way, 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 way too many.
Cam Carter finished with just 6 points. He was 1 of 7 from the field. 2 of the last 3 games, Cam Carter is at home specifically. 2 of the last 3 games, Cam has just had rough games. Against Oklahoma, just 5 points, and 6 against TCU. But between that, 17, 19, and 14, he's been scoring in double figures. He hit 3 threes against the Kansas Jayhawks, so maybe a little bit up and down right now. I think I saw his confidence, be shaken a little bit. He slapped the ball out of a TCU player's hands at one point and thought he might get teed up, but luckily he didn't. There's another stat I need to point out here, Wyatt. If I would have told you before the game that TCU was only going to have 9 fast break points, and they're the best fast break team in the country, would you have thought, wow, K-State's got a really solid chance to pull this one out?
Yes, absolutely true, because if you look at their season numbers going into our game on Saturday, they were averaging 20.1 points per game in transition and also 8 points a game on stickbacks. those are pretty astronomical numbers, and I think it's kind of somewhat the strength of their team. So to hold them down like that certainly gave you an opportunity, and that I think adds to the frustration. And one thing we haven't mentioned that we probably should is just the difference in the two halves. I mean, you have a 28-24 K-State lead at half, and then in the second half, K-State gives up 51, TCU gives up 44. Now, part of that, I think, was, my personal opinion would be, I think the game was called a little differently in the second half, but clearly both teams were shooting the ball much better, and there was much more freedom offensively in the second half. I didn't think either team defended great in the second 20 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, TCU did score 51 points in the second half compared to 24. I mean, they over doubled their point total in the second half. You know, I did want to ask you actually about the officiating, because this was a regulation game, did not go to overtime, and it was still 2.5 hours long. Do you have thoughts on the way the game was called? I mean, I was just kind of getting annoyed about even though I think actually the fouling kind of in the way that the game was called was actually benefiting K-State in the last minute. It was just, we had a total of, let me count these up, 42 total fouls in the game. It just really would drag out the game.
This may sound a little odd, and I felt like they did call a lot of fouls in the game, 42, 21 on each side. But generally speaking, compared to some of the other games we've had recently, I thought the game was fairly well officiated. I was visiting with a couple of people on the DV Sport crew, and they kind of somewhat confirmed that some of those calls that even Coach Tang wasn't all that happy with, probably more times than not were the right calls. So I think Jeb Hartness is a good official. I think Chris Pacey's a good official. I don't know what to say too much about Christopher Merlot because I just haven't seen him enough. But I'll probably buck trend there because I felt like those guys did a pretty good job overall.
Going back to the last shot, another thought about that. What do you think about K-State going zone and mixing it up? And, because K-State took a timeout right before TCU's last possession, and even though TCU hit the three there with 1 second left, I thought everything for K-State pretty much went well in that last possession except for that desperation shot.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Mitch. I think that's a good thought. And my belief would be I think K-State got some mileage out of the zone, meaning it was effective more times than not. They have not been much of a zone team, and I think they used it a little bit more in this game than maybe they have in other games. And I'm not really sure necessarily why that is. Maybe it was try to help off Jameer Nelson and Tennyson and others, but I just think they just wanted to give them a different look, and maybe it's this reason too. Let's be honest. TCU made 6 threes, but we all know the three-point shot is not TCU's expertise. They're just not that good at it. They're probably in the lower third of the league, and maybe that was part of the reason why too.
Well, they just don't shoot it a ton. That was I don't know. I think as of recent games, that's maybe an average game. But other than KU, they shoot, I believe, the second least amount of threes in the Big 12. They just hit 5 of 8 in the second half. And I mean, this game was a game of runs. I mean, K-State in the first half led 14-4. Here comes TCU. They take the lead in the first half. K-State then builds an 8-point lead in the second half. They're up, and this is where the game really turned, where K-State was up 8 in the second half, 12.5 minutes to go, 49-41. And then over the next 5 minutes, TCU goes on a 20-2 run and then would lead 61-51 with about 7 minutes left. That's a pretty specific part of the game that was very important. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that portion of the game, about what stood out, but I would just say K-State had a couple of chances there to put the game away, and they just didn't.
I think that's well said. I think that 20-2 run kind of somewhat speaks for itself. And you mentioned another segment there where K-State had, I'm going to say, a 5 to 6 minute stretch where they may not even have had one field goal, maybe one, but not much more than that. And I think that continues to bog down this team some. Again, I don't think K-State defended very well in the second half, and that cost him. But in a year where they have been pretty up and down, I do think defense has been one of their strengths for the most part. Again, aside from the second half on Saturday, I think that's been true, especially since the early part of the year. But again, it's turnovers, the up and down on the rebounding, probably just frankly not having the ability to value the ball more than they do, and those kind of things. All of those things matter, and a lot of times those kind of things will get you beat. That happened that way this weekend.
Wyatt Thompson joins us from Austin, Texas. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the reason why Wyatt is in Austin. That's because tonight the K-State men visit the Texas Longhorns, and we'll preview Texas when we come back on Wildcat Insider on News Radio KMAN. We are back on Wildcat Insider. Mitch Fortner joined by the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, from Austin, Texas. And tonight here on K-Man, you will hear the Cats in action against the Longhorns for the only time in the regular season as they tip off a few minutes after 8 o'clock from the Moody Center in Austin. Pregame coverage at 7 right here on News Radio KMAN. Mitch back with Wyatt. Wyatt, actually, first thought here just about Austin in general is this is going to be the last road trip for the Cats to Austin. This may be your last professional road trip to Austin, Texas. Does that seem pretty weird to you?
It does. Stan and I were talking about that last night when he flew in from Kansas City, how many times we've been here together over, 22 years of football and basketball in this league together, and those kind of things. And it's really been longer than that. When you go back to the start of the league in '96, it will feel really, really different. I don't know, I'm excited about moving forward, but it will be a lot different without Oklahoma and Texas. We all know that. And I've always enjoyed coming here. It's a city that's, very vibrant, a lot of things going well here, but I'd also be lying if I told you otherwise. I think Austin has changed a lot over the 22 years I've been in the league, honestly.
Now, you did call one game in the Moody Center last year. Do you like it a little bit more than the old Drum?
Well, we've had some issues offensively this year. We scored 116 here last year. I'd take anywhere in the hemisphere of 80-ish tonight, or maybe even 70. I don't know. I like the arena. We had an opportunity last night at a little walkthrough, shoot-around kind of thing that got to see some of the things last night that I didn't see. Our first trip here, they have a courtside club just opposite of where the K-State bench will be that is just a spectacular thing to see. And, up above, on the concourse level, some of their suite level things are just off the charts. So it's probably a little bit better even than I thought it was a year ago, and I was pretty impressed with it, in that first one. And that game last year was 116-103. I'll always remember that. And a few years ago when we were here, Stan will remember this one too. We had a game here where Denny Clemente went off for 44. So we'll always have a few memories of Austin, that's for sure. And that's not even talking about football, right?
Yeah, is the Denny Clemente game your favorite one? I also remember Cartier Martin having a pretty big game down there. I believe it was Huggins' year that he went off and had a big game.
Yeah, probably the reason I'll remember Denny's more so is because in the same game we had a Texas player come up over our table and knock out the power to our table. And I did part of that 44-point game on a cell phone.
I think I remember that.
Was not fun, but we fought through it. We finally got, and our table was the only one that lost power there. We didn't lose, connection to our broadcast except for the power. It was just a power issue, but we got it figured out and got some help and got some power back, and we were fine. But there for 5 or 6 minutes when we don't really know what's happening, it's a little bit hectic. But hey, still a 44-point game and one of the best individual performances I've ever seen. Incredible. Have you
had to call a game from your phone since then?
Well, not probably for that length of time. There was a stretch when we were in the Grand Caymans a year ago where there was this is an odd story. I don't know if most people even realize this, but there was a wreck very close to the arena that hit some type of structure that knocked out internet power to the entire arena. And we were broadcasting through internet services there. So we started the game broadcast with pregame on the phone, which was really bizarre. And we were being told that, it'd probably be second half before they got it restored. Fortunately for us, we got the internet service back right as the game was tipping off. So believe me when I tell you, it could have been a heck of a lot worse. It was odd and stressful, but we fought our way through it, as you always do.
Well, again, tonight, Cats at Texas for an 8 o'clock tip-off, and both of these teams having a rough stretch as of late. K-State 15-10 overall with a 5-7 record in Big 12 play. Meanwhile, the Texas Longhorns, they've actually struggled at home in Big 12 play. They're 2-4. They're 16-9 overall and 5-7 in Big 12 play. Wyatt, what to you in this only meeting with Texas in the regular season stands out about the Longhorns and what could be a problem, maybe what works out for K-State? What are your thoughts on Texas?
Well, let's talk about the problematic areas first. I think they have a couple of 2 or 3 guys that are really, really solid players. I think you start with Max Asmus, who's just a handful of points away from 3,000, which is an astronomical college basketball career. But he was held down in check at Houston on Saturday. Terrific score, though. I think when you look at him and Dylan DeSue right now, we're catching DeSue at a moment in time where he's just playing really good basketball. And last year as a freshman, I really liked Dylan Mitchell. He's a 6'8", bouncy athlete, not a three-point shooter in any way. He's like 0 for 7 per year, but really good player. And I really think Tyrese Hunter and Kendall Weaver bring a lot of energy for them. I think they're a good club. I don't think they're great. And you're right, they've been probably better in the league on the road than at home, and they're maybe the only exception in the league to that, right? I mean, they're the only one, really. But where does K-State match up, and you kind of feel like you have a chance? Well, I think K-State will defend them. For me, it comes down to how good a defense I should say, you're going to play good defense, but how will you play offensively? Can you make shots? Can you value possessions and maybe cut down the turnovers to some? Got to compete on the glass because they do have size and athleticism. If you do those things, you give yourself a chance. Simple as that.
With Texas losing at home, there are now no teams in the conference that have a winning record on the road. At best, teams are 3-3. That'd be actually now it's 4 teams that are 3-3. Baylor, Houston, Iowa State, and Texas on the road have a 500 record. Meanwhile, K-State 1-5, K-State 2-4 at home, 1-5 away from Bramlage Coliseum is the last. I guess it is. Isn't the last one on the road for K-State? Is that West Virginia? Is that right?
K-State's got the game tonight. Then they go to Lawrence before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Then the other games they have, they have BYU at home, West Virginia at home, and Iowa State at home.
And the last win on the road for K-State was at West Virginia, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. Against.
And let's talk about that just for 1 second, because yes, I get it that K-State's 1-5 on the road, but we were talking about this earlier too. I think K-State has been better on the road than that record would indicate. I mean, they had a real shot to win, as you know, in Lubbock. They had a chance to win. I won't say they had a great shot, but they had a chance to win in Ames. I mean, there have been some games there where, you could look at it like, they could easily be 3-3 instead of 1-5, but they're not. I just hope that they have, that same kind of consistent effort, and you make some shots tonight, and maybe you do have a shot. We'll see.
You bring up a good point. I totally hear you, because you're not going to see a K-State team go on the road and not give it a fighting chance for sure, even if they're down. The only exception to that all season has been Houston. That road trip to Houston is pretty much over before it started, unfortunately. But you're right, Ames and Provo, in Lubbock, I mean, they've had their shots to win those games, and they just fell a little bit short in all of them. So I definitely give K-State a fighting chance to go in Austin and pull off the win. But things have changed now with the loss because of the TCU loss. The NCAA tournament, Joe Lunardi has K-State hanging on by a thread in the bracketology on the wrong side of the bubble, but hanging on by a thread. But how much has things changed for you? Or now looking at the rest of the schedule, like now K-State probably needs to win a couple of road games before the Big 12 tournament rolls around.
Yeah, and I think by a thread is accurate. I think K-State is not out of it, even though many believe that they are. And the reason I think they're not out of it is because of the opportunities. It doesn't mean you're going to win them all, but Texas, as an example, they're in the top 40 of the net. That would be a heck of a road win if you could get it, right? You got Iowa State at home and those kind of things. And so, Kansas on the road, sometimes you play them close on the road, maybe you get bumped up a little bit in a couple of spots, and everything counts, right? So I do think that, there's still some stuff to play for and what have you. And one thing I will say, this team is far from perfect, and I get that. But I don't think these guys, they're down because they lost Saturday, but I don't think they're out. I think they'll come back and fight and battle. And I think, I always say this when you're on the road, you want to be in it early, you want to be in it late. And if they do that, give themselves a chance, that's probably about all you can ask for. And the fact that they've had some success here, in recent years, including last year, it can't hurt. It may not help you a ton, but it can't hurt either.
Wyatt, with that, I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your time in Austin. Hopefully the Cats get a win tonight, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, brother. Great talking to you, buddy.
Voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson here on Wildcat Insider. Again, tip-off tonight at 8 o'clock. Pre-game coverage at 7 as the K-State men visit the Texas Longhorns. A timeout. We move to K-State women's basketball. They have slipped a little bit in the AP poll after a 1-1 week at Iowa State, hosting UCF. We talk K-State women's hoops when we come back. Just a few seconds ago, the bringer of Cats, Taylor Bratt for K-State football, has sent out the Cat signal for 2025. So it appears K-State may have their first commitment for the 2025 K-State football class. It could be a handful of guys, one of them. So I'll wait for that young man to make his announcement, and when we know, we'll let you know about who the K-State first commit of 2025 is going to be, as we're about, we're roughly 2 weeks out from spring football. Yeah, I think we're 2 weeks exactly out from spring football getting officially underway. So, Cat signal out 3 minutes ago. Once we find out who that is, we will make sure to let you know. All right, K-State men's basketball in the rearview mirror for just a second. I do want to talk about the K-State women for a second because, man, did they play in a couple of nail-biters, to say the least. They lose in double overtime at Iowa State. They finally got Aoka Lee back in the lineup. Missed 6 games. Cats went 4-2 without her. They're now in second place in the Big 12. Thankfully, Oklahoma lost on Saturday. So K-State now a game back of first place in the Big 12 standings. Would be tied for the Big 12 if, unfortunately, Iowa State didn't get in their way and the Cyclones win 96-93. It ended up becoming the Aoka Lee versus Audie Crooks game. And Crooks is a freshman, Yoki's a senior, and was that a battle of bigs or what?
That Crooks girl is really good.
I mean, she was making shots. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of on right now. Mm-hmm. She's shooting over Yoki, and she was making some clutch shots. K-State just, was missing free throws, and that's been an issue the last couple of games. Not hitting the free throws in clutch time. That allowed UCF on Saturday to make the full comeback, and K-State had to be clutch in the final 6 seconds to win that game. But Iowa State had 5 players in double figures, and so did K-State, led by Aoka Lee and Serena Sundell. Yoki, it took her a while to get going, had to shake off the rust. I think she started 1 of 8 from the field. And she finished 8 of 21, which is, as a center, that's not good. But still got 20 points, 6 rebounds, 7 blocks in the game. Couldn't have done it without her. At least have a chance. Serena Sundell hit a 3 in overtime. I was like, that's what's gonna win K-State the game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. 14 points from Briley Glenn, 13 from Gabby, and 10 from Gisela Sanchez was also hitting a couple of shots there when K-State was really needing them to fall. And then you have UCF coming to town. UCF has struggled this year. They were missing some players. Their roster's better now. Caitlin Peterson has been a really good player this year. She's been one of the best individual performers in the Big 12 this year. She finished with 26 points. She played all the 40 minutes, K-State, for a long time, could not hit a three. I mean, was brick city. They were building a fire station with these bricks. They just couldn't catch fire and bring those fire trucks out.
I believe they were like 0 for 11 to start that game, if I'm not mistaken.
0 for 11 at half, and I noticed whoever was keeping stats didn't count that last one right before the half and kept them 0 for 11, and then K-State hits their only attempt in the third quarter, and they go 1 of 3 in the fourth. I mean, K-State men and women on Saturday combined let me see if I have the numbers here. Okay, so the men went 1 for 15, 3 for 30. The men and women combined on Saturday, 3 for 30 from 3. For some reason, neither team could hit a 3 on Saturday. Luckily, the women held on. It took a Zai to Serena to Jalen Glenn, who was begging for the basketball underneath the hoop. And that was not the first time in the game that UCF didn't get back and kind of fell asleep getting back on defense. There was a previous moment in the game, I can't remember who the player was, but they were begging for the basketball as the Cats were getting back in transition, was all by herself, and they just didn't see her. Luckily, Serena, with the sharpshooter eyes that she has, zeroed in on Jalen, who was wide open, and it was a perfect pass, and Jalen just took a step in the lane, kind of this reverse layup go in, and it was a great pop, hell of a play to end the game, and the Cats survived, winning 60-58 over UCF. So the K-State women now 22-4, 10-3 in the Big 12 again, a game back. In that game, 19 points from Gabby Gregory. She actually led K-State in scoring, which was great to see, although she was 1 of 8 from three-point range. But heck, just about everybody else was bricking the threes. Anyway, Jalen Glenn, the only other player to make one. But she had 4 players in double figures, 15 from Eliza Maupin, and she was a great spark on both ends of the floor. She had a block. I thought she had a block in the game, but she had 3 steals. That was pretty key. She was making plays on both ends. I mean, she had a double-double, 15 points, 11 rebounds. She was grabbing boards, 6 offensive rebounds from Eliza Maupin. She has been a great spark for K-State without Aoka Lee. Now for 7 games, and K-State now 5-2 without Yoki because she didn't play because she hurt the other ankle. Not as serious, which is good news. Doesn't need surgery or anything like that. A sprain or something, rolled it. So they held her out for that game against UCF. Obviously they're trying to be careful with her. You don't want to rush her back. I don't think they're rushing her back. I felt, bringing her back for Iowa State, even though she may not have been 100%, but who is 100% these days in the season? And so she plays against Iowa State, finishes with 20 points, ends up getting hurt in that game, and so she doesn't play against UCF. Fingers crossed. I hate we're doing this again because I feel so bad for her. She can't catch a break right now. Fingers crossed she plays Wednesday, and Wednesday is a ginormous game. Huge. Because the 3-loss West Virginia team will be in town. K-State, number 10. West Virginia, I believe, is number 22 in the country. That's a big game. For K-State to still stay in the fight and to keep their chances alive for a Big 12 championship, this is a much-needed win. With the Cats just a game back, there's 4 regular season games to go. K-State really needs a dub against West Virginia. Hopefully Aoka Lee is back. That is going to be a tough battle if she is not available. But K-State is also undefeated in Bramlage Coliseum this year. And by the way, a road trip to KU coming up on Sunday. By the way, K-State fans, I've noticed there's a lot of tickets still on sale for Allen Fieldhouse for the game Sunday, K-State KU. Let's go buy those tickets. Let's take a break. We'll finish hour 1 of Wildcat Insider. By the way, we have Brandon Jones from K-State Baseball coming up at 5:25. Going to talk to us about the first 3 games of K-State Baseball so far, going 2-1. Mitch Palm versus Texas at 5:10. Look at the Big 12 standings when we come back on Wildcat Insider. In Oklahoma's performance on Saturday against KU, allowing KU to get their second Big 12 win on the road this year. Oklahoma was looking good in the first half. And what happened? They couldn't score. They looked bad in the second half. Things turned around. KU won by 10 in Norman. Whew, Sooners, you didn't come through for me. We take a look at the Big 12 standings. On the men's side, we have 6 games left on the men's side for each team. Right now, there's a tie for first. Iowa State and Houston. Doesn't surprise me. I think they are the 2 best teams in the conference. Iowa State they both play phenomenal defense. I think Houston is a better offensive team. And a real defensive team as well, but Iowa State really isn't that far behind. Both teams are undefeated at home. Both have played well so far in Big 12 play on the road. Mm-hmm. Nobody has a winning record in the Big 12 on the road. Alone in second place is Baylor. KU right now in 4th. TCU and Texas Tech are tied for 5th. BYU 7th. Oklahoma 8th. And then you have a tie for 9th place. Cincinnati, Texas, and K-State. Right now, K-State projected to play day 1 of the Big 12 tournament, which is now if you're a top 4 team, you get 2 byes in the tournament. That is not where you want to be, and that goes without saying. Quite obviously, that is not where you want to be. UCF, Oklahoma State, West Virginia are 11, 12, and 13. On the women's side, K-State women are right now, like I said, tied for second in the Big 12 with Texas and West Virginia. So K-State, to beat West Virginia, gets you a game up on the Mountaineers. You stay tied for second at least, and you hope Oklahoma loses a game after you split the series with them. Texas also, they could take a hike as well. But Oklahoma is first, 12-2. A game back is Texas, West Virginia, and KU. Right now, K-State, if the Big 12 tournament started, which there are 4 games left before their tournament at T-Mobile Center, would be the 3 seed. So they would get a double bye.
You said KU's 4th currently, right?
On the men's side, yeah.
They have never finished below 3rd in the Bill Self era. You got to go back to 99 and 2000 under Roy Williams, the last time they finished lower than 3rd in the Big 12.
There's A.J. Shaw, your nugget of the day. KU on the women's side, actually, there's quite separation. This is clearly a top 4, definitely the best teams in the conference season for the Big 12, because you have KU in 5th, and they're 8-6. They are 3 games back from the rest of the teams ahead of them. And then also tied with them is Iowa State and Baylor, and then you have everybody else. So, like I said, big one Wednesday night for the K-State women, which tips off at 6:30. Get your tickets. Get your purple on and head to Bramlage on Wednesday. That is a huge game to really benefit K-State's chances of a Big 12 title. All right, coming up in hour number 2 of Wildcat Insider, Mitch Palm versus the Texas Longhorns to kick off the hour. Plus, after that, we'll be joined by K-State baseball center fielder Brendan Jones and get his thoughts on the first 3 games of the season. Your local news, also next, Wildcat Insider.